Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Rankin.
Here.
Vice Mayor Walter. Here. Councilmember Woolridge.
Here.
Councilmember Hawkins.
Here.
Councilmember Gleen.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Wall.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. This will be our first topic of the day is the work session on the town lease policy. Lisa.
Mayor and members of council, you recall this is our third time before this body discussing this lease policy. We did want to give you a little update as to why we placed the policy on for action item tonight. We do have a new business who would like to enter into the Silver King, so while we're going to go through the special work session, if there are changes, council can suggest those changes within the motion, and we'd like to adopt it. That's for later tonight. And also to let you know that the plans of coming forward with the leases are going to be to keep the rates the same and to just have that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Ms. Evans, who will be discussing in detail with you.
Okay. Before you start, can the audience, can you hear? Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Rankin, members of the council, I wanted to provide some, kind of recap and provide some additional information about the property lease policy. And just to reiterate that there was a lot of discussion in the last two work sessions about the lease rates and what they are at the Silver King Marketplace. According to the Silver King Marketplace lease policy, retail leases range from $2.50 to $6 per square foot. Non-retail uses, those leases range from $6 to $12 or to $10 per square foot. And that range of lease rates has been carried over into this new lease policy. So with that range of rates, it gives staff the flexibility to negotiate appropriate lease rates with prospective tenants. As Ms. Garcia just mentioned, we have really no intention of necessarily raising the lease rates for existing tenants as we go into that lease negotiation process. But again, the policy will allow us some flexibility if we need that. The other questions that have come up relate to utilities and the costs to the tenants as well as to the town. And at the last meeting, I put together information basically giving the council the average cost of utilities in the Silver King Hotel or Silver King Marketplace. And I do have one slide. I hope everyone can see it. I went back at the last work session. I gave you information on the electrical and water and sewer utilities, and then the utility payments that are made by each tenant. In this slide, you'll see also that I've included the rental payments for each suite, as well as the additional cost to the town of Florence over and above what the tenants pay in terms of utilities. So at the last work session, I mentioned that there typically is a deficit if you look at just the utility expenses and what the current tenants pay for utilities. There could be an average of $350 a month that aren't necessarily covered by those two tenants. But if you look, though, too, that, as the tenancy rates increase, as we gain more tenants, that deficit goes away. And the town of Florence has committed to paying, according to the current lease policy, the town pays for the alarm system as well as the phone lines that are required for the alarm system. In addition, the town also pays for utilities in the common areas, which is the center portions of the bottom floor as well as the second floor. And that area on the bottom floor contains the restrooms, so you have electrical and water costs in that space. So,
And I'll just throw in that the town does provide all janitorial services for only the common space.
that is correct.
For what?
For the common space, the restroom and the common space only.
Thank you.
So that gives you a little bit more breakdown as to the costs incurred at the Silver King Marketplace. If you look at 2013, We had a tenant up in Suite 202 that generated a lot of additional income on that space in terms of rent as well as utilities. That tenant moved out in the beginning of 2014, so you can see where, cost, but certainly income was greatly affected by the loss of that tenant as well as the one in Suite 102. So we're trying very hard to find new tenants for those spaces so that we can certainly generate more revenue on that building. So with that, I will be glad to answer any other questions.
Does any member of the council have any questions, Jennifer? No. I got a couple, Jennifer. Who was the tenants in 102 and 202 in 2013?
In Suite 102, that was Secondhand Rose, the consignment shop. And then in Suite 202, it was Resonate Graphic Design.
Okay. So right now, we've already lost since January, the town's lost $3,200. Is that correct? Is that what I'm looking at there?
Let's see, in rental payments or?
Under whatever your column under 2015 is.
For Suite 202, we've lost?
No, your total net gain and loss.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Bottom line. To date, that's the deficit. But I think, as we bring on more tenants, that will definitely go down.
And you have one tenant ready to go, or just about ready to go?
Yes, Mayor, I do.
Oh, they need some help moving after they sign the contract?
That is correct.
Okay. So that'll take that loss down, so we won't be
I'll probably take it down to close to zero, just with the one tenant.
We're going to have that added cost each month to Benson and CenturyLink because of the security in there. That's correct.
That is correct.
So we now have
Your
utility hookup. So now everybody's utility payments will be they will incur their own costs because we have meters now to individual suites? Am I understanding right on that?
That is correct, Mayor Rankin, members of the council, Councilwoman Woolridge. We do have separate electrical meters already installed in each of the suites, as well as what covers the common area. And then new water meters were recently installed actually we have one in Suite 102. The prospective tenant will not use water for that particular retail use. But we have separate water meters in Suites 101 and 201. There's no water service at all to Suite 202 at this time.
Okay.
How much of anticipated increase are you looking at in each suite?
In terms of cost of utilities?
Yeah, for the leasee?
Let's see. I'm unable to track the water rates, the water meters yet. Those meters were just installed at the end of June, so July will be the first month that we can track those separately. But as far as electrical is concerned, it's, let me see if I've got another sheet of paper. Here we go. I'm hoping. I would say that, for some tenant or one tenant, it might go up a little bit. For another, it might go down if I had, to take a guess. But it's kind of hard to separate out just the electrical. I'd rather do the electrical and water together because that's what they're paying for with that lump sum, monthly sum.
Under 202 during the year, there's no way to can we shut the air conditioning off into that suite or not?
We can. Each suite has a separate meter, so you can turn off the service to that suite. We keep it on usually around 80 degrees or so, if not a little higher. And for Suite 202, it's been running about $25 a month
How much?
25.
Have you talked to the tenants about the increase in the utilities?
I have spoken to Miss Allison, who's the manager of the fudge shop. We spoke about that today, and I have not had a chance to talk with Ms. Johnson specifically about utility rates going up because, again, we don't know exactly what that might, if it's going to go up or go down.
I guess that's just like every one of us that have a home or electricity in our home, we have to anticipate a rate increase. We don't like it, but that's the way we have to take a look at it. I just want to make sure that it's not that we're increasing it, that makes it unaffordable for them to be able to go ahead and stay in there.
Maybe I can give you a better analogy here. The current utility contribution, I'm going to say for the smaller suites, it ranges between $348, just under $348 a month, and $444 a month. And for each of those suites, right now, the electrical itself is running about, $380 for one of them and $230 for the other one. So there's going to be, some costs are going to go up, some are going to go down.
Mayor and members of council, I would just like to remind you of one fact. These are leases that we determined that we have been letting go monthly versus renegotiating. Not only was it because we wanted to get the new lease policy in place, but we also wanted to get those meters in place, which would allow them to pay for their own utility costs. Because it's not only one business subsidizing another business, because we're taking the total cost of the utilities and we're dividing it up by square footage. So this will at least be a more fair approach. The user of the electricity is going to be paying for their services. So if you have one of the suites that did not have a large electrical usage, they were still paying their percentage based on square footage, even if they were a non-high user. We had discussed this with everyone that's in the building, all of the tenants, to make sure that they knew that we were going towards the metered approach and that they would be paying for their business's usage. And Mr. Retta Allison is in the audience, and I'm sure she could speak to that as well.
Okay, does any other member of the council have any questions?
Have you been getting positive feedback from the lessees?
We have not moved to that system yet. We are waiting for the lease policy to be adopted so that the lease can be entered into. They're currently operating underneath the current lease policy, which states how much it's going to cost separated by square footage. So we're very interested in moving on to the new lease policy and making sure that those leases are negotiated and brought before council, and then at that time, then they'll be completely underneath the new lease and the new leasing policy.
Any other questions? Okay, anybody from the public like to speak?
No.
Okay, let Doretta go first. You sit down.
Mayor Rankin and members of the council, I'm Doretta Allison, and I reside at 3271 North Riverside in Florence. I just want to say, we've been there, as far as my being in charge of it, for almost 3 years. And in that time, I'd like to say that we have turned it around. This is the first summer we have not had to borrow money to pay the payroll, which is a really good thing. And but in the past, we do not operate on a big margin because we contribute 10% of everything we take in to support LoveWorks, the pregnancy center, which is a real service to the community. I have found by going to the Women's Club and different places that everybody doesn't know that. But you can get free diapers, free wipes, free clothes, help in any kind of thing, pregnancy counseling, pregnancy testing, all of that free to our community. And we give 10% of everything that we make. So by the time we do that, we don't have a whole lot left. But that is the reason that we exist. We love doing the business, and I think we do really well, and we've had really great response from the community. We try to be open. Every time there is an event in the park, we have been open, at a loss most of the time. But hopefully, as we go along, people get used to it, and more will use it, on a night that we have a movie or we have, a concert in the park. But we were open on the 4th of July. We just have tried to really be a part of what the town needs, and that corner is awesome now. The park is just wonderful. We had hoped, to move into the bigger building, and it was kind of, disappointing that we didn't get to, but on the other hand, with the park there, that has made a huge difference, and everything's going well, and so we thank you that we have the opportunity to be there, and I think that, we're a viable business. I will tell you, I have talked to Jennifer, and we are prepared. We know that the rate is going to go up. That's not, if it goes up thousands of dollars, yeah, we cannot do that. But, but I think it's going to be reasonable according to what she's figured out. So, we'll pay ours, and I think that the Silver King Hair Company probably will get to pay less, because obviously we use more electricity. But we've been waiting for a new lease, and we've actually been operating almost under the lease that you made with that Joe and Connie had years ago when they owned the fudge shop. So it's kind of where we are. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Does any member of the council have any questions, Doretta?
No.
Doretta, all I can say is thank you for doing what you're doing down there. I know I've stopped in and talked to you during some of the events, and the people aren't really using you yet, but they will.
I think so.
Especially if you get hot chocolate during the wintertime. We have the movies or
I
concerts.
promise.
Okay. I just want to make sure that the tenants we have there don't leave us. But I think you understand our situation too on the budgetary problems we have, and we just can't afford to take a big loss on a monthly basis. That's one of the reasons we're doing the electric. I think that everybody should pay their fair share on that. We know that, I believe that the rent is reasonable at this time. I don't want to see anything go up on myself. I don't want to see the increase in any of the rates to them. The new business coming in next to you, I hope will draw more people there to that area. If we can keep their rent down where they can afford to come in and be with us.
Well, and putting a tenant in there makes all the difference. I rented it at one time, as you know, for my t-shirt shop, and I left because the rents went up too much. By the time they renegotiated, it was like $250 more a month, and I was kind of scraping by. So I left. And I was the landlord, I'll tell you, for 7 to 10 years, something like that, and I had quite a few rentals. And when I had a good tenant who paid the rent and took care of it, I never raised the rent, and I had people stay 5 and 6 years. So,
yeah.
I think that what you lose in a month or two of having a baby can't hardly make up for it. So.
And when you get some low-calorie fudge, let me know.
We do have sugar-free.
Okay.
Yeah, but low calories is a little hard to do.
Okay, thank you. All right, young lady, step right up.
Thank you for the young. My name is Kathy Adam. I live at 240 East Ruggles Street in Florence. And thank you for the opportunity to speak, Mayor Rankin, Vice Mayor, and the council. I'm speaking as an interested party in Florence and very concerned about Main Street and businesses, viable businesses. And I think you all know we have 2 of the best businesses in the Silver King. The Silver King is our main feature on Main Street. And I'm just saying that if 2 what I think are well-run businesses can't make a living on Main Street and the town charge a reasonable rent, then we really have a problem up and down Main Street, because this is a very desirable building. So I appreciate everybody's efforts here. I think just for clarification, when we're looking at this net gain and loss number, is that mostly attributable to not having half the building rented? It's not that we're not charging them enough? I mean, they shouldn't have to pay the offset.
They're not paying the offset.
Right.
So, when you're looking at a building that's essentially half full and most of your square footage is vacant, then that definitely impacts because of the way we charge for utilities per square foot.
I just wanted to clarify for the rest of us, because sometimes we read things in the paper and we're wondering, why are we running at a loss? But if it's because we haven't rented the other space, and if we did rent the other space, then we're financially viable?
I believe so.
Okay, that's a good thing. And then, did I understand, again, for my own clarification, with the utility meters being individual suites now, when you're talking about an increase, you're talking about directly tied to the amount of utilities they use, not a surcharge you're putting on top. So it's, in effect, it's under their control.
Yes, it is, entirely under their control.
Thank you.
Any other member of the audience? Okay. The common area utilities at 100 square foot, why don't you go ahead and explain what that $2,400 that we spend in this fiscal year is?
I calculated the common area at the Silver King at about 800 square feet. And if you multiply that by 61 cents a square foot, which is what the other tenants pay, then that would be the town's share of utilities for that particular space.
So we pay, so far from January to May, we paid $2,400 for that little alcove, and then,
If we were going to pay ourselves, it would, at that rate, it would be that much.
and by the new lease with the new tenant, that should come down.
It should, because it'll be based on usage, so we have that separate meter in the common areas. And right now, that common area has the second highest electric consumption over the last 5 months. But I think that cost will go down by probably a couple $1,000s.
That's good. Well, we just have to show the public that we're, with their money, that we're not spending unwisely, that we have to spend their money wisely, which they want us to do. Does the new tenant want to say anything? If you do, step up to the mic. I've never known her not to say anything anyway.
I might as well. I'm Kim Elbrock. I own Bucks for Style, so I'm new down on Main Street. New to all of the politics and stuff. I run my shop and have a good time with it. So I basically don't want it to go up. Obviously, I want it to stay low because I'm a new business. This is my first winter here on Main Street, and I got a lot of feedback from the people that come to visit this town and really, really love this town. Really love what the town could bring, the different things that they have ideas. People have these ideas that they want to open an ice cream shop or want to do whatever kind of shop. These people like this town and they want to keep coming here. When they come back every year, they see something new or they see something leave. And I got a lot of, I would say 95% of the people that would come in, I'd hear it 10 times a day, how grateful they were that I'm there and how grateful they are to have new businesses come in town. So just have to speak, I don't want it to go up, I want it to stay low. I know eventually it'll have to go up, but I see a lot of people, a lot of town people come in and use my shop. They earn some money on their recycled clothing, and it brings business to other businesses down there, and we all help each other. The girls at the bud shop, we constantly back and forth on what can we help each other with. So I think it's a good team effort, and I think we're bringing more people down there. So I don't want it to raise. That's all I have to say. I'm new, so next year I might have something else.
Well, we appreciate your comments. And we don't want to raise the rates either, but understanding that utility cost has to be put on to the tenant rather than all the taxpayers in town.
Well, and I get that we would have to pay our own utility. With the common areas, I'm not familiar with that, because if you go to just a normal business in, say, the Valley, who pays for those common areas? I don't know. I'm not knowledgeable in the...
Usually your landlord will
commercial.
pay for that.
I'm sorry?
Your landlord will pay for the common areas, and it's included in your rent. We're not including that.
So from January to May, it says $2,400 for the common areas utility. Just because I'm frugal and I always watch if people coming through the door, shut the door right away, it's got the air on. That front door, does that have anything to do with it where it doesn't shut fast enough, where it stays open and someone doesn't sit there and shut it, kids walking through and it stays open? I mean, you're bringing hot air through that area.
Jennifer, can you address that?
I'll have to get with the facilities manager so we can check out the door and make sure it's operating correctly. I have noticed that there is a delay. It didn't seem to used to be that way, but we'll check that out and make sure that it's as efficient as possible.
Have our facilities manager take a look at that.
Yes, sir.
We'll take a look at that. Thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you.
Yep, and I'm not going to charge you $10 extra.
Okay.
Thanks again, appreciate it. Uh-oh, here come one more.
Well, I was going to say I couldn't believe that she wasn't going to say something tonight.
My name's Carol Johnson. I live 60 South Orlando, right here in Florence. And I am looking forward to paying my own utilities. Then I can control them a little bit, be frugal. And I do know that back door is always locked that goes out to the park. So, I mean, coming into the building is not, they can't do, but can't stop them from going out, I guess. I'm a little bit concerned about the handicap parking being so far, the only place that's reserved for them over by the trash cans at the far back of the building. It'd be great if there's something a little closer to the front of the building.
I'll have Wayne look at that.
Yeah, that's all.
That's your job, Wayne. Take a look at the handicap parking in that area. Thank you. Any other member of the council have anything? No. Becky? Karen? Well, it doesn't look like does staff have any recommendations for us?
This is the work session, sir. You're going to have the action item later on in the agenda. So at this time, you can either take a break and wait till 6 o'clock, or we can proceed with the items that are not scheduled for a public hearing. Your call.
Let's go ahead and take a 15-minute break. Respond to criticism made by those commenting, may ask staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the council shall not discuss or take any action on any matter during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. This time I'll open call to the public. Lisa, do you have any slips?
I do not, sir.
Okay. Nobody wanted to write it out. If Gilbert ever gets out of the way, we'll go with call to the public here in just a minute. Thank you, Gilbert.
I'll write one out when I'm finished. Ruth Harrison, Florence, Arizona. Tonight, Section E under the consent agenda, you're going to be approving minutes from numerous meetings in June. I've suggested before that perhaps you all would consider having an outside agency, a transcription agency that does this professionally, do this overnight, in which case you would have the minutes the next day probably, and would not would not have to read all of these all at once in 3 days or whatever that is. And for the sake of the public would know too what's going on a little bit sooner than they get to know now. So that's my suggestion. You might want to consider perhaps comparing the amount of time and the amount of money spent by the staff, your staff internally, as opposed to what it might cost to have the benefit of getting this material back sooner if you were to outsource it. So that's my suggestion again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other member of the public have any comment? Hearing none, I'll close call to the public. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going off of the agenda due to the fact that under state law we have posted for a 6 o'clock meeting for the public hearings and presentations. So we're going to go down and we're going to start with under item 7C.
Item 7C, presentation by the Greater Chamber of Commerce recognizing the American Legion Post Number 9 as Business of the Month.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor Walters, council members. First of all, you missed a nice party at the casino night Saturday evening.
I'm sorry I missed it, but I was up there and where it was 55 degrees Saturday night, raining.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Nope, no worries. We got a table waiting for you.
Well, you were probably trying to take all those chips back.
Yeah. Anyway, I'd like to present this July 2015 Florence Chamber of the Month, Business of the Month, to the American Legion Post number 9 for all their community service through the Little League youth programs, homeless veterans, and they honored the veterans with tremendous amount of support. So that is one reason that the Florence Chamber decided to pick the American Legion to be the Business of the Month for July 2015. Thank you very much.
Mayor, council members, we'd like to say thank you, first of all, to the Chamber. We'd like to say thank you to the community. The community is really helping out a lot by donating money in ways they don't even realize that they're donating. We put out a junior and a senior American Legion baseball team, I think for the first time
In a long time.
ever, or a long time.
Long time.
And we sponsored both a Little League team and a softball team. We're going to continue to support the community as much as we can. And I'm going to take this opportunity to announce something that nobody really knows about. The American Legion is going to start sponsoring a teen dance night for the local high schoolers on a periodic occasion.
That's great. And you know, I'd like to say something. I can't apologize for what our commander-in-chief has done, but I think it was an insult to the military officers that were shot and killed that our flags are not flying at half-mast. And I just want you members of the Legion to know that this council does support the United States Armed Services, and we're here to do whatever we can for you.
We thank you, sir. I did look that up on the internet, and he has not yet approved that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and congratulations. Item 8.
Item 8, consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless a member of the council or the public objects at the time the agenda item is called. Item A, adoption of resolution number 153015, a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the map of dedication for Main Street and First Street for the installation and dedication of required public improvements. Item B, adoption of resolution number 1531-15, a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, accepting tribal gaming funds granted by the Gila River Indian Community. Item C, adoption of resolution number 1532-15, a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving and authorizing Mayor Tom J. Rankin, Interim Town Manager Lisa Garcia, and Interim Finance Director Marcia Gout to act as signatories for the transaction of business for the Town of Florence banking accounts and declaring an emergency. Item D, adoption of resolution 1533-15, a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving and authorizing Mayor Tom J. Rankin and Interim Town Manager Lisa Garcia to act as signatory for the transactions of business on the Police Evidence Trust Fund at National Bank of Arizona and declaring emergency. Item E, approval of the June 1st, June 10th, June 15th, June 18th, June 22nd, and it says, and June 22nd, 2015, council minutes. Item F, receiving and filing the following board and commission minutes: the April 9th and May 11th Arts and Culture Commission minutes, the May 27th Historic District Advisory Board Commission minutes, the May 20th and June 17th, 2015 Joint Use Library Advisory Board minutes, the April 23rd, 2015 Parks and Recreation Advisory Board minutes, the May 7th, 2015 Planning and Zoning Commission minutes. Mayor, members of the council, that is your consent agenda this evening.
Does any member of the council have anything they'd like taken off the consent agenda? Does any member of the public have anything they'd like taken off the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as read. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item 9, 9A, discussion, approval, disapproval of a lease of the property lease policy. Mayor, member of council, this is the item previously discussed. If you have any question, Ms. Evans would be happy to answer them for you.
Does any member of the council have any questions they'd like to ask of Lisa?
I just have a comment that I'd like to hear from other members of the council on, and that pertains to, on page 4, item 5311, discussing an administrative fee of 5% of the rental rate being assessed on all leases. My understanding is that none of the current tenants are paying this 5%, and the proposed lease for a new tenant does not include the 5%. I feel personally that it's kind of like piling on, and that administration of these leases as well as management of this particular property is part of the staff's responsibility rather than an additional responsibility. So I would like to suggest and propose that that particular item, that sentence from 5311, be eliminated. Any other comments?
I agree with you. I don't want to see them have to pay any more than what they've got to, and 5% is not very much on a monthly basis. How much, what are you total bringing in?
Mayor Rankin, members of the council, that fee would equate to anywhere from $7 a month on the smallest suite up to $17 per month on the largest.
I don't think that's going to break us. I agree with you, Carol. Karen, I think that under 5311, I don't know if any other member of the council has any input into that?
No, I agree with her. I actually took a picture of that for future reference, and I was going to suggest the same thing.
Thank you. Then I would like to make a motion that we delete the sentence that reads, an administrative fee of 5% of the rental rate will be assessed on all leases from the proposed leasing policy.
So I'd be striking, go ahead, Valerie.
No, I was just asking, is that a motion to approve it with the deletion of that?
I'm sorry, a motion to approve the deletion of. This is my first motion.
I know, so calm down.
Settle down, settle down. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the lease policy striking item 5.311.
It's actually not the whole paragraph, just that one sentence.
Well,
Just the one sentence. We've got it in the records.
okay, you know what we want?
Yes.
Okay. And we got a second on it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item 9B, discussion, approval, disapproval to enter into a lease agreement with Bucks for Style LLC for Suite 102 in the Silver King Marketplace. Again, Mayor and members of council, if you have any questions, both the tenant and Jennifer Evans are here to answer any questions you may have.
Jennifer, you have anything on it?
I can give you a brief overview. Ms. Kim Ellebrock, she has owned Bucks for Style clothing consignment for the past year, and she's actually in her second location, she's currently located immediately south of the Silver King Marketplace. And she approached us about leasing space, well, Suite 102 specifically, because it has a better layout for her store. It's nice and open. And, she really wanted to be in a unique place. And then also, there might be changes coming with her current space and her tenancy there. So we've negotiated a rate of $3 a square foot, which is comparable to what the Fudge Shop's paying for their space. And Ms. Ellebrock will also be charged a $356 deposit, and then she will pay for any utilities she consumes, which will really only be electricity. And we are, she has done a great job, I think, growing her business over the last year. She's still considered a new business, but she's a welcome addition to Main Street. I know she's made a lot of new customers. Every time I'm in there, there's always a string of people walking through. And it's not just women, it's men as well. So she's really appealing to, the family as a whole. And by moving into the Silver King, it will allow her to kind of expand and improve upon what she's already doing a great job with. So,
Does any member of the council have any questions? Jennifer? Jennifer, this is the third business site that she's been
yes,
out to.
this will be the third. That's correct.
And her business just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so maybe hopefully she'll take 202 one of these days too. Okay. Need a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the lease agreement between the Town of Florence and Bucksford Style LLC for Suite 102 at the Silver King Marketplace.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the lease agreement between the Town of Florence and Bucks for Style LLC. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we'll go back to the public hearing. Lisa?
Item 7, public hearings and presentations. 7A, public hearing on an application received from Piero Buccellato for a zone change on approximately .36 acres located at 680 East 1st Street, Florence, Arizona, from neighborhood multifamily zoning district to highway business commercial zoning district, and first reading of ordinance number 631-15, an ordinance of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving a zone change on .36 acres from neighborhood multifamily zoning district to highway business commercial zoning district, APM 200-47-001B. Mr. Eckhoff will provide you an overview.
Mark?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A real straightforward, simple zone change here for you tonight. It is consistent with the general plan. It's on a small piece of property that is undeveloped, located between the Union Baptist Church and a little small commercial building that's located at First and Highway 79 at the northwest corner. The Buccellato family purchased this lot and the front commercial parcel so they could combine them both and make a decent commercial property. The rear part of the property now can be utilized for additional parking that would be needed to support new business in the front office, in the front building. The front building, a variety of commercial uses have occurred in that building. They plan to keep a portion of it for office, retail types of uses, or even a potential medical, chiropractic, hair salons, those types of uses. But they are developing the other portion of the building for a planned coffee shop, maybe a gelato shop, and they've been cleaning up the property quite a bit lately, and they have plans to do a lot more. As I noted, the property is consistent with the general plan, which is a highway mixed-use designation, supporting this change. Current zoning, and then the proposed zoning. And you can't see it on this map, but actually just a couple more parcels down, we actually brought the zoning to commercial to Phoenix as well for the Taco Bell development. So we're starting to see some more interest in the commercial development along Highway 79, which is a really great opportunity for new development, opportunity for redevelopment. Mr. Buccellato, sorry about that, had a neighborhood meeting at his site to educate folks around him about what he was doing. There generally was support for that, and I think folks are excited. We haven't received any comments to the written notifications and so forth that went out. So seems to be a lot of interest in what he's doing, and we're excited to help him move this project forward. And the applicant is present here tonight as well, if you have any questions of him. Tonight is a public hearing only.
What's that?
Tonight is just the public hearing, the first reading, and then we'll come back to the next meeting and have the action.
Does any member of the council have any questions of Mark or the owner? This time I'll open the public hearing. Does anybody want to say anything? Piero, you got anything you want to say? Okay. I know that'll work well in conjunction with the new traffic light or traffic control device that the state is putting in, and that'll help. I'm hoping that helps you out there in the traffic situation. Hearing no other comment, I'll close the public hearing. Lisa, you have this marked for action. I don't believe it's an action item tonight, is it?
On 7A, it's marked as a public hearing and an ordinance, a public hearing and first reading.
Mine doesn't say action. Mine says action.
It's not like that online. The paper copy is different.
Doesn't
There
sound
must be some differences. In my book, it shows that item 8A is an action item along with a resolution.
You want to go to 7A, not 8A.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We're on 7A, sir.
Okay. I'm lost again. Go ahead.
Okay, so you open the public hearing, close the public hearing, and we're moving on to item B. Public hearing on an application for a zone change to change the existing zoning from neighborhood office, highway business, commercial, and multifamily residential to downtown commercial in an area bounded by Ruggles Street to the north, Butte Avenue to the south, Course Street to the west, Canal Street to the east, and first reading of ordinance number 632-15, an ordinance of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the downtown commercial zone change located in the area generally bound by Ruggles Street to the north, Butte Avenue to the south, Course Street to the west, and Pinal Street to the east. PZ 15-37 ZC/PZC 37-14 ZC. Mr. Eckhoff will be providing a presentation to council.
Mayor, council, we continue to be successful in our quest to rezone the majority of the properties within the subject area to the DC zoning district, which is something we're excited about because a while back we did a code amendment and we modified the DC zoning district to make it really suitable for new development to occur and redevelopment to occur in the downtown area. Some of the things that really are advantageous having the DC zoning on the property is the waiver for parking, the parking requirements, and also potentially being able to build out to the property lines. So we've eliminated the setback requirements. We also have allowed more mixed uses to occur. We did the initial round of DC zone changing going right down Main Street from Ruggles to Butte. We added a few more properties along the way. We have about 10 more properties to add tonight, which are a couple town-owned properties, some county-owned properties, and some privately owned properties as well. And everyone has agreed to this. We also held a meeting on this to get additional input, and everyone was supportive of what we're doing here. And again, this is a change that is consistent with the general plan. In this case, the downtown area in the general plan is designated as downtown mixed use. It's a little bit different than the highway mixed use in that we're trying to encourage a more pedestrian-oriented development versus a vehicular-oriented development along Highway 79. This allows, again, the opportunity for more mixed uses to occur. Residential uses can occur also in this area. Along Main Street, the non-residential uses are encouraged. And as we complete this process, you'll see that the majority of the area now within the target area will be zoned DC. There's a couple more properties. We'll continue to work with some landowners that have been a little hesitant to pursue this zoning thus far, but we'll continue to work with a couple of folks, and maybe at some point we'll be able to get the whole area zoned DC, whether that occurs now or sometime in the future when they have development plans and realize the value of having the reduced setback and parking requirements to help them build on these small lots. Like the last item, this is a public hearing and first reading of the ordinance zoning. I'd be happy to address any questions.
Any member of the council have any question of Mark? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. And it's open the public hearing on an application for a zone change from neighborhood office, highway business, commercial, and I guess that's under 7B, right? To downtown commercial. Does any member of the audience have anything they'd like to say? Let me ask you a question. If there's no question from the audience at this time, maybe you can explain. When a person comes into the historical district, does that decrease or increase, in your opinion, the value of their property? Or does it have an effect on it?
Well, Mayor and Council, I can't tell you exactly about property valuations, but I can tell you that with what we've done downtown lately and what we've done on Main Street, that there's been an extreme interest in acquiring some of the properties in this particular area, particularly on Main Street. So I think it's visible, the investment that's occurred. We've been seeing a lot of tenant improvements and some new activity. So we've got really a couple areas that are you know, I say hot, it's relative to the Florence market, but the Main Street, the downtown area, and then Highway 79, we have a lot of folks looking at both of those. And they're looking at them for a little bit different reasons. They're looking at the Main Street because it's walkable, it's unique, it gives them a smaller space that they can work with. They're starting off a small business. We have more folks looking at Highway 79 that have maybe more of a bigger commercial business, maybe something that needs a little bit more vehicular traffic going by it. But both of those areas are really popular right now.
Okay. I was just curious because if a homeowner came in and he wanted to improve on his property and he was in a historical district, he'd have other loops to go through in order to be able to do it. Is that correct?
Mayor and Council, that's correct. If you are in the historic district, if you are doing certain improvements that affect the exterior appearance of the property or the overall integrity of the property, improvements that require building permits, you do need to go through the Historic District Advisory Commission to maintain the validity, the integrity of the historic district.
That's what I thought. Okay. Any other member of the public have any questions? Hearing none, seeing no movement, I'll close the public hearing.
Mayor, the last item before you is the manager's report, and as part of the manager's report, I did note that I would introduce the new finance director. If Mr. Gabriel Garcia could come up to the podium. Just to tell you a little bit about Mr. Garcia, he grew up and graduated in high school, or he grew up and graduated from the Coolidge High School, and he earned a bachelor's degree in finance from the Arizona State University. He has his MBA with an accounting emphasis from the University of Phoenix. For the past 2.5 years, he has worked for the City of Coolidge in their finance department. His prior work experience includes service as a senior internal auditor from the Gila River community. He's an owner of his own tax and accounting business, and he was the financial services manager at Creanton School District in Phoenix. And we are very pleased that Mr. Garcia does reside in the town of Florence. So with that, welcome.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Town Council. I'd like to thank you and the town of Florence for allowing me to become your next finance director. I'm excited to be part of a very strong team that you have here. During my tenure, I hope that you find that the finance department excels in the following areas: accountability, transparency, and accuracy in managing the town resources, and that we provide a high level of customer service to the internal and external customers that we have. As Ms. Garcia mentioned, I've been a lifelong resident of Pinal County, and I'm currently a resident of Florence, and I look forward to serving you and the residents of the town of Florence.
Well, thank you and welcome aboard. We'll disregard where you graduated from.
I had a feeling that was coming.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, what was that, Valerie?
He was one of my kids. I'm very proud of him.
Okay.
Thank you.
But, and all kidding aside, welcome aboard. You have your hands full. You're going to come in, but you have some capable people in the finance department that will assist you, work with them, direct them. That's what we want. We want to make, and we want to be transparent to the public. We have a big election coming up, and we have to have the right numbers to tell the people. We want to give them the right numbers.
Yes, sir.
And again, welcome aboard, and thank you for coming. You and Cliff, the newbies on the block, we're changing, but we're going forward. And I think us going forward, you in the position, that's going to help take us there a little bit faster. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If council has any other questions on the manager's report, I'd be happy to address them.
Any council member have any questions, at least on the manager's report?
No, I just have a comment. This is a beautiful spreadsheet you did on these districts. Just right on.
Ernie did a really good job when he put that spreadsheet together.
Any other comments? Okay, let's go to the call to the public. Second call to the public. Anybody from the public have anything else they'd like to say? Using the same qualifications we had in the first. Denise, you feeling okay? Okay. All right. Okay, seeing no movement, I'll go ahead. I knew it. I knew I could get somebody to say something.
My name is Fred Redman, and I'm at Magic Ranch. And my only comment is that I remember 2 weeks ago that the board had decided we were going to get umbrellas for our lifeguards, and I thought it was going to be done right away. I was out there on Saturday, and they were roasting and did not have any umbrellas. I asked the people there if they thought they were going to get any, and they said that somebody was working on it, but they had no idea who. I have not been there in the last 4 or 5 days, so something could have happened while I'm not there, but I thought it was imperative to try to get those umbrellas for those young kids to stay out of the sun. So.
Thank you, and I think Brian will be able to give you an answer after the meeting. We can't call that, no, we can't discuss that. So appreciate you coming to the pool too. Any other call to the public? Seeing none, I'll call the council. John?
Yes. The past few months has been a trying time for me, and I'm sure for other council members. I found that being a member of the Budget Committee being a real eye-opener. I want to thank Council Member Becky Goulin for helping me through the budget process. We worked hard, and I want to thank the council for supporting the Budget Committee. I also want to thank the citizens who attended the budget work sessions. I found the town had not had a balanced budget for the past couple of years. We approved a budget for the upcoming 2015-16 fiscal years where the expenditures exceed the revenues by $1.2 million. We, the council, promised the voters we would not cut services if the citizens would allow us, the town, to exceed the state spending limitations. The only way to balance the budget for this year would have been to cut services and reduce aquatic center activities. We decided to operate in the red for the year to give the staff the time to better get a handle on the cost of the aquatic center and to come up with a balanced budget for the 2016-17. Capital improvements were removed from the current budget. The $1.2 million overrun is being paid from existing reserve funds. Our town has been fortunate to operate in a conservative mode for years and adding funds to our reserve. These reserves are how we were able to build the new aquatic center and library. However, over the past couple of years, allowed our normal operating expenses to creep up each year where they exceeded revenues. We are now using our reserve funds to supplement the operating budget. This practice violates the town policy and is fiscal irresponsible. I realize the town needs to change direction. I'm challenging the town staff to begin planning a balanced budget that includes normal capital improvement and funding the reserve accounts. The Budget Committee needs to immediately begin planning for 2016-17. The goal is simple. Expenditures cannot exceed revenues. The path to get there is rather complicated, though. Much of our revenues are controlled by external forces like state revenue sharing, taxes, building fees, and so forth. There's little action that the town can take to increase revenues. We should explore new sources for sales tax. Also, an unpopular revenue source is property taxes. The town has a great professional staff. They understand the significance of our budget crisis. We must cut our expenditures by approximately $2 million. As I said earlier, the new budgets need to include capital improvements and reserve funding. I've been called a naysayer because I challenged the building of the aquatic center and the community center. I'm concerned about our lack of cost planning for these centers. I've never objected to building a new Olympic pool or library for the town. However, my concern about the operating costs of such large centers is now a real problem. We have we budgeted a $1.2 million overrun, which $500,000 of that is directly attributed to the Aquatic Center. As I've said, we must find ways to increase revenues or to cut services. The three big budget expenses are police, fire, and parks and rec. We have a tough road ahead of us. Our challenges with the Aquatic Center have just begun. I'm not saying we'll fail, but I'm saying we're going to have to plan better. I think I'm being realistic rather than a naysayer. Thank you.
Becky?
I also would like to just say how much of a pleasure it was to work with Mr. Anderson on the budget. We had many difficult recommendations to do. We combed through it just like we used to whenever I was working here. I will say that we have a budget. Yes, it is in excess, and we do need to work on taking a look at expenditures and everything we plan as a council and as members of the budget committee to continue to take a hard look at the budget. But I do appreciate all the staff and the hard work that they do, and especially I want to thank the employees of the town. We have come through this without having to lay anyone off, giving a 3% stipend to our employees, and at least giving them something for their efforts for the town. Many communities, and even Pinal County itself, have not been able to afford increases for their staff, but that has always been a priority for the town, not to harm the staff. We have an excellent benefit plan where on our dependent coverage, we pick up 22% of dependent coverage, which was significant, especially for our population. In comparison to the Arizona League of Cities, other communities, it's a golden contribution, actually. So we try to compensate in some areas, and this is one of them. In our health insurance benefit, we pay 100% of the employee's cost and 22% of dependents. And we do appreciate all the efforts of the staff, and we always take care when we're considering a budget with them. So thank you very much.
Bill?
I have nothing.
Karen?
Nothing, thank you.
Valerie?
I don't have anything tonight.
Tara?
I'd like to welcome our two newest employees to the community and to the town. Look forward to working with you, getting to know you. Also, Parks and Recreation, we just wrapped up a summer camp at both the Anthem area and the core area of Florence for the kids of Florence. From what I understand from talking to families in both of the areas, it was a huge success. The kids had a great time. I visited both areas. The staff was very engaged. The students were engaged. They had an opportunity to go down to the Aquatic Center quite a bit and enjoy the facilities. And in looking forward and continuing the budget conversations, I'm looking forward to Town Council working together and having budget discussions earlier on rather than waiting until, more into the next year of looking at what the budget's going to look at and having everybody be able to participation and that transparency so the communities know what we're talking about, what we're planning, and an opportunity for them to be involved as well. And welcome back to the students. This is their first day back to school today. And so as a reminder for the people in the community, please drive safely, take heed. The speed signs are out, 15 miles an hour, but really you can never be too safe. Keep your eyes out there. Thank you.
I agree with that last comment wholeheartedly. Police department work these school zones. We don't want anybody, and especially the one on South Main for the high school students. People get there's a crosswalk there, and these high school students are crossing. I'm afraid somebody's going to get hurt down there. So we do need to keep an eye on that one also. After John's talk, on call of the council. You know, in my opinion, we do have a balanced budget. We are having to use reserves to balance our budget. We will be coming out of it and again putting money in the bank. We are going to be hurting this year as far as being tight. We're going to be looking to save every dime we can so that we're not having to take so much out next year. We have an important election coming up next year, again, to go over the expenditure limitations. We have to provide the numbers to the citizens to make sure that they understand what is going on and what projects and so forth. It's a hard time for us right now, but we're going to come through with it. This town has never gone, we've gone backwards too many times, and we're not going to go backwards again. The staff that we have working for us are dedicated to the town of Florence, and they're dedicated to making Florence a better place, a better community for people to come to live, to play, and to invest in. And that's what we want. Hopefully, we have a couple more entities coming on later this year. I know I'm working with one right now that I'm not entitled to say what it is, that should bring some economic development in. And I also can tell you that the hospital on Adamsville Road, the property did sell. And there's another group out of Texas looking to see what to do with it. And it looks pretty good as their plans are going along real well now. But the building has sold, the property has sold. So I think we're heading there. We're heading there. In this council, I would imagine that I could say that this is a very conservative council. Am I conservative to a certain point? Am I believing in providing the services I believe the community needs, especially our children? Yes. Because I have heard nothing but good to say about our aquatic center down there and the people that are working and running it. I just hope everybody takes advantage of it. I know that, Brian, you're working on a new schedule for during the school season. There'll be some adult lap swims too. They're going to be included, so the adults that want to come down and not have to swim with these young people, you'll have the opportunity to do that too. With that, I need a motion.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn an hour-and-a-half meeting. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.